It was just a regular Tuesday. The kind of day that bleeds into the others. Gray skies, light drizzle on the windshield, work emails piling up like leaves in the gutter, and the lingering feeling that I'd forgotten something. I hadn't, but the feeling stuck anyway. I'm Jacob, 36, mid-level logistics coordinator at a company whose name even I find boring. I've been married to Haley for 9 years. We have a 7-year-old son, Logan. Great kid, loud, curious, with a knack for turning any object into a lightsaber. Haley works as a dental assistant at a clinic about 20 minutes from our house. She's always been good with people. Chatty, efficient, the kind of woman patients remember because she makes them feel heard even when they're drooling through gauze. That afternoon, I was finishing up a report when my phone buzzed. Haley, hey babe, can you grab Logan? Running late. New patient walked in, last-minute weary face. I replied, sure, thumbs up, without thinking much of it. She'd been working longer hours lately, but so had I. It was just one of those seasons in life where things felt a little stretched. Nothing serious. At least, that's what I told myself. I picked Logan up at 3:10 like usual. He came sprinting out of the school doors, backpack bouncing, hair a mess, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. Dad, I won the spelling bee for our class. He shouted, barely pausing to breathe. No kidding? That's awesome. I ruffled his hair, and he immediately tried to fix it. The drive home was filled with 7-year-old wisdom. He told me how Timmy pushed the lunch monitor's emergency button by accident, how Maddie said fart in front of the principal and didn't even get in trouble, and how he was going to be a book shark this month if he read 3 more chapter books. Honestly, it was the best part of my day. When we got home, the house was quiet. Too quiet for a house that normally buzzes with the sound of Haley's true crime podcasts playing from the kitchen speaker or the hum of the dishwasher. But it wasn't unusual. She'd said she'd be late. I microwaved the leftover meatloaf she'd made on Sunday and popped open a can of corn. Not exactly gourmet, but Logan was thrilled because I let him have 2 scoops of ice cream afterward for his spelling bee win. We sat across from each other at the table. The kitchen light above us flickered once. A bulb that always needed replacing but never quite got replaced. It was while Logan was drawing with a ketchup packet on his plate that he said it. Dad, why was Mom in the garage with that guy with the red beard? I blinked, fork halfway to my mouth. What guy? Logan shrugged, still focused on his plate. The guy that was here before, with the red beard. He was in the garage with her. They were standing really close. He said it like it was the most normal thing in the world, like asking why the sky was blue. My chest tightened. When was this? Today, right before we came in. Aunt Betsy knocked on the door a few times but nobody answered, so we just came in. My hands went still. I had 1,000 questions, but I didn't want to scare him. So I forced a smile and said, huh, what were they doing? Nothing, he said, just talking really close. Kinda whispering. He had sunglasses on his head and Mom was laughing. Laughing. That word hit me the hardest, and I wasn't even sure why. Maybe because Haley's laugh used to be mine. Something we shared, quietly, between movie nights and burnt pancakes on Sundays. Did she see you? I asked, still trying to stay casual. I think so, he said. She looked at me, but then I went to get juice. That was all I managed. Just My throat had gone dry. My mind felt like a balloon that had just popped. I don't remember much else about that dinner. Logan finished his ice cream and went to the living room to build a fort out of couch cushions. I sat at the table, staring at the streak of ketchup left behind on his plate. The house was so quiet. A different kind of quiet now, heavier, like the silence knew something I didn't. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Logan had an active imagination. Just last week, he swore there was a raccoon living in the basement that could talk. And the week before, he told his teacher that I worked at NASA. But there was something about the way he said it. The casual certainty. The way he wasn't trying to tattle or even sound alarmed, he was just sharing. Like it was a fact. Like the sky is blue. Like Mom was in the garage with a man who didn't belong there, standing too close. I checked the garage later after Logan went to bed. There was nothing unusual, Haley's car was parked in its usual spot. A small folding table stood by the wall, with the bin of Halloween decorations we still hadn't put away. The scent of old cardboard and motor oil lingered in the air. No sign of anything out of place. But still, my mind kept looping back. The guy with the red beard. I couldn't recall anyone who fit that description. Not a neighbor. Not someone from work. Not a friend of the family. And the phrase, the one who was here before. What did that mean? Before when? Logan didn't say anything else about it that night. He was too busy reenacting a lightsaber battle with his stuffed animals. But I didn't sleep much. When Haley came home around 9:15 p.m., she was smiling, talking about how exhausted she was and how the clinic's new intern kept mislabeling charts. I nodded, said, "That's *CKs," and smiled when she leaned in to kiss my cheek. I tried not to flinch. She didn't notice. We went to bed around 10. She was asleep within minutes, breathing soft and steady beside me. And me? I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her breathing, wondering how much of it was real, because something had shifted, and I wasn't sure what, but I knew it started with Logan's words. I didn't say anything the next day. I wanted to. I thought about it during my commute, while brushing my teeth, even during a meeting where my manager was talking about shipping delays and I realized I hadn't heard a word he said. The words "red beard" kept looping in my head like a scratched record. But I didn't confront Haley. I needed to be sure. I needed context. I told myself that. I wasn't being paranoid. I was just being careful. That night at dinner, she was perfectly normal, too normal, maybe. She laughed when Logan told her about his spelling bee win, offered him extra mashed potatoes, and teased me about always burning the garlic bread. It was all familiar, comfortable, even almost convincing, until I said, "Hey, Logan mentioned something kind of funny yesterday." Haley glanced at me mid-chew, nodding. "Oh yeah. Yeah," I said, trying to keep it light. "He said you were in the garage with a guy who had a red beard?" I watched her face closely, the twitch at the corner of her mouth, the fork slowing just a beat, barely perceptible, but I saw it. Then she laughed. Not a full-body, belly laugh. A quick, too casual chuckle. "Oh, that? Babe, he also told me last week that there's a dragon in his closet that wants to eat his socks." She turned to Logan. "Didn't you, kiddo?" Logan nodded proudly. "It's real. I named him Sherman." Haley smiled like the matter was settled. "You know how he is." "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just a kid and his dragons." But inside, something cracked. Because Logan might have dragons and sock-eating monsters in his closet, but he also notices everything. He remembers birthdays, license plates, which pizza place uses square pepperoni. He doesn't make stuff up just to be silly. Not when it comes to real people. Couldn't shake it. Suddenly, everything small started feeling big. Things I'd overlooked before, brushed aside as life happening, now felt like clues in a mystery I hadn't known I was living. Like how Haley had started working late, more often than usual. Some weeks, 3 nights in a row. I'd offered to pick her up, but she started saying things like, "It's fine. I'll Uber. Don't waste the gas." Or, "The last patient's always a walk-in. I don't want to keep you waiting." It used to be she'd text me on her breaks. A quick, "Ugh," Karen canceled again. Or a blurry photo of her lunch that she insisted tasted better than it looked. But lately, silence. Radio silence until 8 or 9 at night. Then a vague, crazy day. Exhausted. "Love you, Red Heart." The first time it happened, I didn't think anything of it. The second time, I chalked it up to stress. The third time, I started keeping score. And then there was the perfume. Haley had always worn subtle scents. Vanilla, rosewater, stuff that smelled like a bakery. But 2 weeks ago, she came home smelling like a department store. Sharp, musky, unfamiliar. "New perfume?" I asked. She smiled, almost shyly. "You like it?" I said yes. But I didn't. Not because of the scent. Because it wasn't her. It smelled like someone else entirely. And the clothes. It's not like Haley ever dressed sloppy. She takes care of herself. But these past few weeks, She's been dressing different, tighter jeans, blouses that dip lower, lipstick she never used to wear unless we were going somewhere fancy. And we weren't going anywhere. She'd get home, exhausted, peel off her coat, and hang it like nothing was off. But there was something. The way she moved around me, like we were in a play and she was sticking to a script. Everything choreographed. Nothing spontaneous. I started testing it. One night I asked if she wanted to watch a movie together. We used to do that all the time, cuddled up on the couch, making sarcastic commentary over whatever we picked. She barely looked up from her phone. "What's on?" she asked. "Whatever you want." She made a face. "If it's more of your boring 90s stuff, hard pass." Then she went back to scrolling. Her phone never left her side anymore. Always screen down. Always on silent. She'd excuse herself to go check on laundry or take a shower, phone in hand. I'd been with her long enough to know the rhythms of her life. This wasn't part of them. And yet, I didn't say anything. Instead, I observed, quietly, like someone standing in their own house, trying to spot what's been moved while they were away. There was one night I couldn't sleep. Haley was snoring lightly beside me, completely at peace. I stared at the ceiling, then slowly got out of bed and went downstairs. The house was still. Too still. I walked into the garage. The overhead light buzzed as it flickered on. Same table. Same box of decorations. But something was different. There were 2 empty water bottles in the trash bin, brand I don't drink. One had lipstick on the rim. Also, the foldable camp chair. It had been moved. Just slightly. Angled to face the far wall. Like someone had been sitting there. Talking. Waiting. That next morning, Haley got ready for work in a black blouse I hadn't seen before. It was form-fitting. New. When I asked if it was from that boutique she used to love, she just said, "Oh, this? No, just something I found online." Then she smiled, kissed my cheek, and left. Logan was eating cereal at the table, humming to himself. I sat across from him, watching him spoon soggy Cheerios into his mouth. "Hey, buddy," I said gently. "That man you saw in the garage. You said he's been here before?" He nodded without hesitation. "Yeah. Do you remember when?" He thought for a second. "Once, like 2 weeks ago. I think it was when you went to get pizza. I heard voices outside. Then when I looked out the window, he was there with Mom. Same guy. Did you see what they were doing?" Logan furrowed his brow. "Just talking." But she hugged him before he left. He went back to his cereal like it meant nothing. But to me, it meant everything. I felt sick, because I'd missed it. I'd missed it all. The late nights. The laughter over texts I never saw. The guarded phone. The new perfume. The way she slipped through the cracks of our routine so quietly that by the time I noticed, I was already standing in the rubble. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was just frozen. Like the truth had walked into the room and sat down across from me, uninvited. So I started watching her even closer. Not just what she said, but how she said it. When she made eye contact. When she didn't. I noticed she didn't say, "I love you" first anymore. I noticed she never lingered in hugs. I noticed she deleted her call log. And I noticed, most of all, that my wife was drifting toward a version of herself I didn't recognize. But maybe the worst part? She wasn't looking back. Everyone has that moment, the one that ends the guessing. The one that draws the line in thick, black ink. Mine came on a Thursday morning. Chilly, fog hanging low over the streets. Like the sky was holding its breath. The kind of morning that tells you something's coming, even if you don't know what yet. By then, I had already collected the puzzle pieces. And I hated that I had. Because there's this space between not knowing and knowing where you still have hope. Even if it's naive. Even if it's delusional. There's still room to lie to yourself. But once you know, that space closes like a door. Quiet. Final. That morning I created my own alibi. I packed a gym bag, left it by the door. Printed out a fake training itinerary from a corporate template. Highlighted the dates for effect. Told Haley I had to attend a 2-day work seminar in Dayton. Hotel provided, long hours, boring lectures. She didn't question it. Just nodded, kissed my cheek with one of those hollow pecks, and said, "Drive safe." That was the first confirmation, in a way. Because when you tell your wife you're going out of town and she doesn't even ask where or when you'll be back, that's not marriage. That's choreography. I didn't drive to Dayton. I drove 3 blocks down, parked behind an old landscaping truck near the corner, and waited. The hours passed slow. I sat in the car with a coffee gone cold and my nerves slowly unraveling. Part of me felt ridiculous. Another part of me numb, like I was just watching a version of my life from the outside. At exactly 11:17 a.m., a gray sedan turned onto our street. I knew it wasn't hers. It was his. I'd seen it before. Parked crooked across our driveway one Saturday last month when Haley said she'd had an emergency supply run for the clinic. And just like that, it all clicked into place. He stepped out of the car like he owned the sidewalk. Red beard, short cropped hair, a flannel jacket too thin for the weather. I could see them laughing before she even shut the door behind her. She met him at the curb. They hugged. Not quick. Not friendly. His hand stayed on her lower back. Her fingers brushed his neck when she pulled away. And then, without a glance over the shoulder, they walked inside our house. Straight in. No hesitation. They didn't sneak. They didn't pause. They didn't even look like they were doing anything wrong. That was the part that gutted me the most. They didn't look like they were doing anything new. They looked like people who had done this before. Like this wasn't the first time she walked him through our front door at 11:17 a.m. on a weekday when I was supposed to be somewhere else. I sat there, frozen. My brain didn't scream. My hands didn't clench into fists. I didn't throw the car into drive or burst in shouting. None of the things you think you do in that moment happened. I just sat there watching the front door close behind them, watching the wind nudge the leaves in our yard, watching the curtain in our upstairs bedroom window shift slightly, like the house was blinking at me. I waited 20 more minutes. No movement, no noise, no second thoughts. Then I drove away. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't sit there anymore. I ended up in the parking lot of a grocery store 3 towns over, staring at nothing. I watched people come and go. A mom pushing a stroller. A guy in a neon vest wheeling in shopping carts. A teenage couple laughing too loudly. They all looked so normal. Meanwhile, I was in a car that still smelled like Logan's apple juice, holding a coffee cup with fingernail dents along the rim, wondering how long my wife had been practicing infidelity in our home like it was just part of the routine. That's what made it worse. The routine. It wasn't the shock of catching her in some wild, impulsive moment. It was the precision, the planning, the fact that she knew exactly when I'd be gone, that she felt safe enough to bring him there, that she wasn't worried about being seen, not by neighbors, not by Betsy, not by me, because to her I was out of the picture already. And I knew in that moment that I wasn't the husband she came home to anymore. I was the background. I was the echo of a life she'd already left, still going through the motions because that's what decent people do when they don't have the guts to admit they've checked out. I stayed out all day, didn't text, didn't call, didn't ask where she was or why her location was turned off. I just watched the clock hit 4:30, then 5 o'clock, then 6:45. At 7:12 p.m., I walked back into our house. It smelled like cinnamon and Clorox, her cleaning scent. The windows were cracked to air out the place. Haley was at the stove, cooking pasta, like it was just another Thursday. "Hey," she said brightly. "How was the drive?" "Long," I said. I kissed Logan on the head. He was working on a math worksheet at the table, his tongue poking out in concentration. Haley poured me a glass of wine. Same brand, same glass, same smile, everything in place. Except nothing was. I watched her stir the sauce, saw the flicker of her eyes toward the clock, the way her hand hesitated just slightly when I walked behind her. I could have said something then. I could have brought up the red beard, the 11:17 timestamp, the shadows in our living room. But I didn't, because that moment wasn't for her. It was for me. It was the moment I let go. Not because I was ready, but because the version of her I had built in my head no longer existed. That night, after dinner, I watched her laugh at a rerun of The Office like nothing had changed. She sat on the couch in her fleece pajamas, feet tucked under her, wine in hand. I watched her like a stranger would, noticing how she tilted her head when she laughed, how she scrolled her phone during commercials, how she kept it angled away. It didn't hurt like I thought it would. Felt hollow, like I'd found the crack in a porcelain mask I'd been staring at for years, and now I couldn't unsee it. At midnight, when she fell asleep beside me, I lay awake and stared at the ceiling fan turning slow. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I just knew what I wasn't going to do: pretend. After that day, something in me shut down. Not dramatically. No explosion. No shouting. It was quieter than that, like a switch being flipped somewhere deep in my chest. I still went to work. Still made Logan breakfast. Still asked Haley how her day was. But it was all muscle memory. Habit. Performance. I was living with someone who had already left, and pretending not to notice was exhausting. Haley didn't change. That was the strangest part. She came home, kicked off her shoes, complained about patience, poured herself a glass of wine. She laughed at the same shows, folded laundry, asked Logan about school. If guilt existed, she hid it well. Or maybe she'd already justified everything to herself. Either way, I wasn't part of that equation anymore. I started sleeping lighter, not because I was afraid she'd leave in the night, but because I didn't trust the quiet. Every vibration of her phone pulled me out of half-sleep. Every late-night bathroom trip made me open my eyes just enough to see if she took her phone with her. She always did. Her phone became an extension of her body. Face down, silent, locked. She'd angle it away from me when she texted. If I entered the room, she'd stop typing mid-message. Once, I caught a glimpse of a name I didn't recognize. Just a first name. One I'd never heard her mention. When I asked who it was, she didn't miss a beat. Oh, that's a hygienist from work. She's dramatic. She smiled. I nodded. Inside, I documented it. That became my coping mechanism. I stopped reacting emotionally and started recording mentally. Dates, times, inconsistencies. I checked bank statements when she showered. Nothing flashy, no hotels, no gifts. Just gas station charges near our house in the middle of the day. Coffee shops she never went to with me. Lunch spots she claimed she didn't like. I took *TS. Quietly, efficiently. One night I asked if she wanted to watch a movie. Not as a test, more like a reflex from an older version of myself. She didn't even look up from her phone. Same old stuff, Jake. You always pick boring movies. Jake. She hadn't called me that in years. I sat there, remote in hand, feeling like I just reached for someone who wasn't there anymore. The rejection wasn't sharp. It was dull, familiar, like pressing on a bruise you already know exists. Logan noticed the distance before either of us said a word. He asked why Mom sat farther away on the couch now, why we didn't play board games anymore, why she left early on weekends. I told him grown-ups get tired sometimes. It wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. At night, I lay awake while she slept beside me, scrolling through her phone until the screen dimmed. I watched the ceiling fan turn and tried to remember the last time she reached for me without distraction. The last time she asked how I was and actually waited for the answer. I didn't confront her because I was afraid of what would happen if I did. Not of losing her. Of confirming that I already had. There's a paralysis that comes with knowing the truth but not acting on it. You're stuck between two lives, the one you're living and the one you know is coming. Every day feels borrowed, artificial, like a set you'll eventually have to dismantle. I started imagining the house without her. Her shoes gone from the entryway, her mug missing from the cabinet. The silence different but honest. And the strangest thing? The idea didn't scare me anymore. Felt inevitable. I didn't hate her. Not yet. I just didn't recognize her. The woman moving through our home wore my wife's face but none of her presence. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. She touched my arm in passing, but it felt rehearsed. like she was checking boxes. I realized then that she wasn't lying to protect me. She was lying because she didn't want to deal with the consequences yet. And that meant sooner or later I'd have to. It was a Friday night when she said it. We were sitting in the living room, not really talking. I was flipping channels, not even watching what was on. Haley sat at the far end of the couch, scrolling endlessly on her phone, her thumb making the same circular motion over the screen like she was stuck in some kind of trance. Logan was upstairs asleep, or at least pretending to be. Then, as casually as someone mentioning they were out of milk, she said, "I'm going to Santa Fe this weekend. Girls' trip. Just Friday through Sunday." I turned to look at her. "Since when?" "Just came up," she said, brushing her hair out of her face like it didn't matter. Kara's been dealing with a breakup, and Jessie had these hotel points she didn't want to lose. We figured it was perfect timing. She said all of it without making eye contact. And that was the moment I knew this wasn't just a lie. It was a rehearsed one. Thought through. Practiced. Spoken before, maybe even aloud in a mirror. Not because she thought I'd question it, but because she needed it to sound real. I didn't push back. Just nodded. "Sounds fun," I said. She smiled. "Yeah, it'll be nice to get away. Reset, you know?" I knew. She packed that night like someone packing for a second life. Not a single moment of hesitation. I sat at the kitchen table and watched through the open bedroom door as she zipped and unzipped her duffel bag, laid out outfits, checked the weather on her phone. She even laughed once, quiet, under her breath, at something she read. That laugh used to belong to me. I don't know what made me check her GPS that night. Maybe it was the way she hugged Logan goodbye. Too quick. Maybe it was the way she didn't ask me to walk her to the car like she used to. Maybe it was the voice in my gut, the one I'd spent too long ignoring. She left at 7:46 p.m., texted me at 8:12. "Made it. About to lose signal. Love you guys, Red Heart." At 10:40 p.m., I opened the tracker app I'd installed 2 weeks earlier. She was nowhere near Santa Fe. She was at a roadside motel in Black Hollow. I zoomed in. Not a hotel spa. Not a retreat. A motel. Tucked behind a gas station. A place you go when you don't want to be found. The motel had no website. Just a cracked sign and rooms with plastic blinds. I'd driven past it once on the way to a hiking trail. The kind of place that smells like cigarette ash and regret. I didn't text her. Didn't call. I just stared at that blinking red dot on the screen. That was the moment the fear left me. All of it. The dread, the suspicion, the hesitation. They vanished. Because there was nothing left to doubt. It was 1:18 a.m. when I drove to my brother Ryan's house. He opened the door in sweatpants and confusion. "Everything okay?" he asked. "I need to crash here tonight," I said. He didn't ask questions. Just nodded and stepped aside. I slept better on his couch than I had in weeks. The next morning, I got up early. Didn't even make coffee. Just thanked Ryan and drove back home. The sun had barely started climbing the sky. Dew clung to the grass like the world was trying to pretend everything was fresh and new. I pulled into the driveway. First, nothing looked different. The front step still had Logan's soccer ball next to it. The porch light was still on. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and stopped cold. It was empty. Not the house, but the presence. The warmth, the illusion, gone. At first, I couldn't tell what was off. Then I stepped into the kitchen. The shelves were cleared. Not empty, cleared. All her cookbooks, her favorite mug, the vitamins she left next to the sink. Gone. I walked through the house slowly, like I was entering a crime scene. The wardrobe was stripped clean. Her side of the closet. Hangers swinging like something had been torn away. Drawers emptied. Even the coffee maker was missing. The one she insisted we needed because drip coffee is for amateurs. Then I saw the note, folded neatly on the kitchen table. My name written in her handwriting, the same handwriting she used on birthday cards and grocery lists and Christmas tags. "Don't wait." That was it. 2 words. No apology. No explanation. Just a full stop. I sat down in the chair she used to sit in every morning while checking her phone, and stared at those 2 words for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt light. For the first time in months, the room didn't hum with lies. There was no more pretending. No more games. No more watching her pretend to be present while texting someone else under the table. Just silence. Honest silence. I walked through each room after that, like I was touring a museum of what used to be a marriage. Her lotion was gone from the bathroom counter. Her robe from the hook. Even her toothbrush. All removed like a surgical extraction. Like she'd planned it for weeks. Waited for the trip as her cleanest out. She didn't leave Logan's drawings. Didn't leave the photos from our vacation last summer. She took the life she still wanted and left the one she didn't. And still, I wasn't angry. I was relieved. Because there's a particular kind of pain that comes from not knowing. From guessing. From playing investigator in your own home. But this was the first honest thing she'd done in months. She left. And that was something I could work with. That night, I made frozen pizza for Logan and me. He didn't ask why she wasn't home. I think he already knew. Kids always know more than we want them to. After he went to bed, I opened the bottle of wine we'd been saving for something special, poured myself a glass, sat in the silence of our house. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath. I just breathed. No lies, no performance, just me and the truth. And somehow that felt like a beginning. A day after she vanished, her Instagram lit up, a filtered lake selfie, captioned, "Sometimes you have to walk away to find peace. Dizzy #fresh start #healing. Then came the texts from mutuals. She's really worried about you. You should reach out. Somehow she flipped the story, made it seem like I had left, like she was the one abandoned. She turned our reality into a curated victim arc, complete with hashtags and sympathy. I didn't respond. I just kept documenting. Dates, locations, card charges, all of it. The truth, piece by piece. She could spin her story, but I had facts. I had *TS. I had the silence of a house she left. And truth? Truth doesn't beg to be believed. It waits. I filed for divorce. Quietly. No fight. Just facts. My lawyer had everything. The trail she left behind was clear. The judge didn't ask many questions. I got custody of Logan. She moved into a rental. The red-bearded guy. Ghosted. Probably just another chapter in her escape plan. As for me, I rebuilt. Waffles on Sundays. Laughing with Logan. Peace. She thought I'd wait. Thought I'd hover in her orbit. Wondering what she'd decide. But I didn't. I left first. Not for revenge. For freedom.